will work, won't it?
Yeah, that's for you.
Yep, that's for me and.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? And I guess we'll just put the total scores here. My friend Carol made it at work, so I was so busy. Or not Carol. Deb. It's gonna be bad.
You cannot.
I won't, but I'll try to be professional. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think this is crazy.
It is crazy.
If you
Poke.
change, if you change your email, you need to use to get the Hamilton payment at that for
I
almost
know.
2 years.
I know.
But then there are certain candidates that are very frustrated by this lack of surpassing.
Which one?
Well,
Name
who
them.
are you talking to, sir?
Mm-hmm.
How are you compromising the integrity of the process by speaking to candidates? No.
Wow. Who dropped that one?
Well, yeah, but who? No. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? That means that
Mm-hmm.
you are having a conversation that
Mm-hmm.
you're not supposed to be having.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they're not complaining now because it would make sense for them to complain and potentially not be appointed to the board. How are you talking to candidates?
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't talked to anybody. Really haven't.
So that was the first one, and then that one was followed by another one, and then another one.
Yeah.
These are really weird questions.
Yeah.
And I
I'm so
knew that it was
sorry.
going to be, once I saw the preliminary, I was like, oh, this is going to be
Mm-hmm.
so fucking weird.
That's why I didn't make notes. I probably thought it was that because I wanted to mix it.
Mm-hmm. So, nevertheless, nevertheless,
Mm.
this
Oh,
is
the
our
tally will be
story.
down here. So if we have to add, if he shows up, we can add his name here,
Mm-hmm.
and then the tallies go. You know. Now it'll be here this way. Because Carol, so let's say this person got 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 30, 60. It would be 100, and then I put the 100 there.
Mm-hmm.
So if he shows up, I'll have to, or we could go this way. That's what we'll do. We'll put him here if he shows up, and we'll put the tallies here.
Okay. Works for me.
The meeting is at 6, right?
Yes.
No,
They're
I'm a little
coming.
nervous too.
They're coming. We're not worried.
Let me get out of this seat.
The only thing we're worried about is nothing.
It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, I don't
Every
worry.
little
I'm
thing's
trying to think about
gonna
whatever.
be
Yeah,
all
I don't worry
right.
about anything.
Don't worry about a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not one thing.
Yeah, I just hope my thing makes sense. Each applicant is allowed an opening and closing statement. Ask 5 questions by one of the board members.
Oh, I have a script.
Oh, well, let me see the script because I may just be running.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about a word.
We score board members 1 through 4,
Oh,
4
here it
being
is.
the highest, allowing 20 maximum points. Yeah, you might be saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, take a brief break, then return to the board club. Board members will tally the responses and submit them to her. The points will be reported, followed by board discussion. Well, this is how I'm scoring. Do I need to even say that? Okay, never mind then.
Because when
Okay, good.
what we're gonna do
Okay.
is everybody's gonna score
Mm-hmm.
in accordance over here,
Mm-hmm.
and then we tally it all up,
Mm-hmm.
and we put it on this sheet.
Yep, the color sheets.
Hey, Christy. And then when it's all over, we take this sheet and give it to you.
And slide it down to me.
And
Yep.
slide it down to you.
You can like fold it over if you don't want everybody else to see what you
Mm-hmm.
did. Yeah. Oh no, Carla.
What is
I'm
that?
getting over it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm almost done.
All right, good.
She said I'm almost done.
You can feel the end coming?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. It's been since we got back from overseas.
No fair.
It started on the airplane.
I tell you, airplanes are the worst. It probably started during the conference.
Somebody's ill.
Oh, Carla's got a cough. I can hear it from here. All right, that's yours.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody
Well,
asks,
this is the best I can do to get Carla.
what is a little plant, Patty? You are just when
Well, you know,
when times get like
it's-
this, Patty goes shopping,
Well,
and we're reciprocating. I love it.
you can't build relationships without plans.
That's true. appreciate. All right, I'm moving away.
Slate coming?
Yes, I'm just hogging the seat.
Is Jermaine coming?
We hope so. We are hopeful.
Do I have time to go get something to drink?
Yep, you have time to get something to drink.
I hope somebody who knows how to run this clock. Carla, do you know how to run this clock?
Do know how to run the clock.
Carla, I'm giving the clock back to you. He's coming to you right now. So remember, there's a 25, like if you think of it, or I'll think of it, because I'll put my watch on for 25 minutes so that we can give them a block sign.
Um, the newest version of Robert's Rules of Order is out. I have 3 copies. Do you want one? Jen,
Yes, dear.
do you want a copy of Robert's Rules of Order?
He might come.
I have the last
Oh, he
one.
was told the commercial ticket is not to come. He made very large announcement on his Facebook page
Oh, so let's,
that he was not coming.
then let's get rid of this now, so it's not.
Yeah, so it don't look obvious when we leave that.
Absolutely.
Eyes receipts, no need for you to do that. Come on,
I'm not
ladies.
taking it personal. Do you ever read the 4 agreements? You don't take it personal. Doesn't have anything to do with me.
It sure doesn't.
Don't have nothing to do with me. I'm going to get me some more tea. Anybody want anything?
No, I brought water.
Diet Pepsi, or, I mean, Diet Coke?
Y'all don't want me with no
I would love
combination.
one, but I was told I can't have cans on the board before.
You want a cup and a take, and a Coke?
We put them in a glass and just fudge it.
You want one?
Could you bring me a
You know,
tea?
Yeah.
Peppermint if they got it?
Oh, sorry.
You want a hot tea?
You know, Carla?
Yes.
We got a lot of flack, especially during COVID, for having plastic and cans and all this stuff. Like people were calling in. Seriously, it was crazy. So we just kind of like thought we would just kind of just put
Go
it.
glass, no
Yeah, go
clear.
glass, go whatever. Like what Carla has is perfect because who cares what's in there? But she brought it from home,
Right.
so they can't ding us for it. But you know, after a while, I mean, I would get 40 hate mails a week that I was answering. So after a while, your skin's like Teflon and just rolls off you. But you do get tired of people throwing darts at you. So
Which is why I
you-
told you.
yeah, it was. It was brutal. It was brutal.
I couldn't have been there. And I'm grateful, you know, there's a lot of things that, I've been able to come in and help and stuff, but I didn't break. I'm gonna just put it that way.
Yes, that is.
And let that be
Make
the.
us sound so grateful. All right, I got pencils because I'm a pencil guy. Yeah.
Is Shelby here? Hello. Is Shelby here? Do we know?
No. I don't think she'll be back till Monday. What about that? Look at that. I got a human calculator and I got a
Yes, you
three
Funny.
Be that.
glitter bedazzled calculator.
Yeah.
Good, did need a day, girl.
And I got erasers, pencils, just.
Oh, we have 6:15.
I think the first person's coming at 6:15, but we have to okay the new policy, second read that I will not read again.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You did good.
Ridiculous that I do
It was
that.
a lot of information at one time. But,
Well, it was like the state gives us articles and we can't change it.
Right, we
There's
can't
no
twist the
thing
word.
to discuss. We just do it.
Out of tea now, I guess.
Get yourself a breather.
Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
I have a motion from trustee Shola Barber with a second from trustee Murphy to accept the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none. Secretary Hill, will you please take attendance?
All trustees are present with the exception of trustee Jackson, and Dr. Slade is also present.
Thank you. At this time, we will have Dr. Slade reports and recommendation.
At this time, we'll have a second reading on some new policies that we had to revise based on some laws that were passed last in 2023 by the Michigan legislation.
Trustee Hill, the chair of the policy committee.
Do we have any discussion about those policies from any board member? Seeing none, I would like to make a move that the policies all, do I have to number them off? All policies all are accepted into our policy manual.
I have a motion from trustee Hill for the acceptance of policy 3.2, the non-discrimination policy, policy 8.1, the equal employment opportunity policy, policy 8.2, hiring and staff, policy 8.4, staff evaluation, and policy 8.7, staffing, assignment, layoff, and recall of classroom teachers. I need a second.
Second.
I have a motion from trustee Hill, seconded by trustee Shola Barber, of the updates for the policies that I read. This will be a roll call vote. Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Shola Barber?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Hill?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And with that, the policies have passed on the second reading. At this time, there will be persons requesting to address the board. Seeing none, we will resume at 6:15 for our first interview. Good evening. I would like to call this meeting back to order. At this time, we will begin with other business, which is the interviewing of applicants for the open Board of Education trustee position. And we will. No, she's coming. Good evening. Hello and good evening. Tonight, we will be interviewing 4 candidates for the vacant board position. The board reviewed 18 applications for the trustee position at a special meeting last evening on February 8th. 5 candidates were selected to interview. 1 candidate was unable to attend the interview this evening. We appreciate everyone who applied or considered applying for the position. This position is very important to the district as the Board of Education consists of 7 board members who work together to develop policies and the superintendent. Each candidate will be given the chance to provide an opening statement. Next, board members will take turns asking questions. At the end, the candidate will be given the opportunity to provide an ending statement. All candidates received the questions prior to tonight's interview so they could prepare. The interview process is timed at 30 minutes for each candidate to complete the opening statement, questions, and closing statement. Secretary Hill will keep time and provide a 5-minute warning to candidates when they are at 25 minutes, but actually it's going to be Treasurer Murphy. In fairness to all candidates, the time limit will be kept. Board members will be listening carefully to all answers and scoring each part. They may not be able to maintain eye contact as closely due to keeping track of the responses. Following the last interview, board members will take a brief break, then return to the board floor. Board members will tally their responses and submit them to Secretary Hill, who will keep track. The points will be reported, followed by a board discussion. If the vote total is clear with the discussion confirming, there will be a motion to select a board candidate for the vacant position. If there is not a clear top choice, then the board members will be asked to rank in first, second, and third order who they would like in the position. The rankings will be reported and a discussion will follow. If there is a clear top choice, a motion will be made to vote on the candidate to fill the vacant position. If not, the process will continue to rank the board members until a choice is made. The decision will be made tonight so the candidate can start at our next regular board meeting on February 22nd. And with that being said, good evening, Carol McGlynn. Can you briefly introduce yourself and explain why you are interested in serving on the Board of Education? Please elaborate on your involvement with KPS, including any volunteer work within the district.
Good evening. Thank you, President Harrison and the board for having me here tonight. My name is Carol McGlynn, and I am a proud KPS parent of 2 children who graduated a few years ago, but both went on and took advantage of the Kalamazoo Promise. My daughter-in-law is also a KPS graduate and did the same. I'm married to Dan McGlynn, and in October, believe it or not, we're going to be celebrating 40 years of marriage, 32 of which have been in Kalamazoo and in the West Edge Hill area. I retired from SLD Reed a little over a year ago, but I've spent 25 years there in different capacities as a reading tutor, as the development director, and as the executive director. I also served on the KPS board from July 2008 until December 2018. I think I had that a little off on my application. I think I said 2009. But anyway, I checked it out and it's July 2008 to December 2018. The reason I'm interested in applying for this position is that I've been very impressed with Dr. Slade, the board, and the work that's been going on. And KPS has always been really near and dear to my heart. And I now have some time. I have experience in the position. I am a team player, a consensus builder, and I really think I can make a positive impact to the board. I also I have grandchildren, and one of which will be starting kindergarten in the fall. And so I have a vested interest to make sure that our district continues to be the outstanding district that it is. Going on to the things that I've done in the district. Currently, I sit on Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo, which is a city anti poverty initiative. And we work with 3 communities: Northside, Eastside, and Edison neighborhoods. And our focus in those areas are jobs, housing, families, and youth. And all 3 of those peers really directly affect the educational outcomes of our kids. So I find that work very connected to KPS. Over the last 28 years, starting with my son in kindergarten, I've been involved in PTO. I've been a Girls on the Run coach. I've been a Girl Scout leader. I volunteered through SLD Read as a reading tutor. I represented KPS in communities and schools on their board for many years. I've sat on various committees. And in my role at SLD Read, we had quite a few partnerships with KPS, literacy partnerships, the volunteer tutoring program, a number of professional development things that we have done with educators too. Next year, my granddaughter will be going to kindergarten, so I'm sure there's going to be lots of opportunities for me to volunteer there too, and I look forward to doing that.
Thank you. What do you believe is the role of a school board member?
Right. So the primary role of the board is, of course, to oversee the education of the students in the district, and that means the evaluation and hiring of the superintendent, overseeing the budget, working on policies, and but a school board member is one of 7. And so that means that person needs to be somebody who can work together, who is a good listener, who can build consensus, who has the time that they need to be able to attend meetings and be present at events, be it related to schools and to school board. Making sure that we're really working towards, as a team, towards doing what's best for kids. And I think it's really important to emphasize kids because that really should always be a school board's number 1 priority. Sometimes we get into a lot of adulting and dealing with adults, but we really have to always look back and reflect, what are we doing? We're working to better the kids in our community, and that's very important to me. It's not to micromanage, but I do think that you have to look at the role as really being the eyes and ears in the community. And so talking with people and connecting with parents, community leaders, students, and helping them guide, if they're having issues, giving them directions on where to go. If we don't know that personally, we can reach out to staff and help them out. But really having that active role is important too.
Thank you. Trustee Johnson.
Right. Because I am retired, I do have that flexibility. But even when I was not retired, when I was on the board, I always made it a priority to be at meetings. Um, Being present is a big part of this job. And so it is so important to make sure that you can attend meetings. And, once I like commit to something, I really make sure that I follow through on that. So I would, unless I had something prior engagement that conflicted in some way, I am absolutely there and very willing to commit to that.
Tell us about a time you worked with a group of individuals with dissimilar views and collaborated to create a consensus.
So, a number of years ago in SLD Read, we came to a crossroads, and the organization was formed really around dyslexia and one-to-one tutoring. And we got to a point where we started to realize that there was a lot more that we could do, because what we knew is, although there's many children that struggle with learning because they have a neurological difference, there's also a lot of kids that struggle because they didn't attend preschool. They weren't brought up in an enriched environment. They weren't exposed to books. They're very low vocabulary. And what we found is that our program worked with children that are in that situation and with dyslexia. We also had developed a lot of information for teachers, and a lot of teachers were taking our tutoring class. And so we started to develop professional development for educators. And then we started realizing maybe we should also do things around literacy initiatives. But we had a camp that was very set on the fact that we were a tutoring organization that dealt with kids with dyslexia, and they really wanted us to stick to that mission. And so really what we're trying to really do is change a mission. And how we went about doing that was in a number of different ways, but one, being very good listeners, to listen to the people in that camp and seeing what is drawing them to that, and then also doing research to look to what other people are doing in the communities, seeing if that was something that would be effective for us, and then really circling back to people with a plan that drew out the importance of what we were trying to move forward with, and to really say to them too, we heard you, we understand that you're worried about dyslexia, we're not going to lose that part of our identification. So another piece is really looking at the students in the program, the parents in the program, the community around, to make sure that these are things that are going to be helpful for them too. So I think it's really important when you're trying to build consensus is to look at a whole picture. Don't try to push your agenda forward without really looking at how everybody else feels, and bring people along instead of alienating them.
What is a board member's role in promoting the growth and brand of the district?
So going back to the team of 7, I think once a board takes an action, and it's really important that the team support that action. So, kind of an example I can think of is you guys are starting Saturday school. And that's an initiative that the district is doing. And so the board being out and being supportive of that is really important. Being out in the community, having conversations around that. Being positive about what's happening in the district, I think, is so important. Sometimes I think it's human nature to look at the negative, but when you can start really looking at the positive and having conversations about the positive things that are happening in the district, it can make a huge difference. And board members are the people that can do that can be in the community, be talking to nonprofits, be talking to our elected officials, advocating at state level. All those things are ways we can promote our KPS brand.
Good evening. The KPS motto is every child, every opportunity, every time. How would you positively promote the brand of the district?
As someone who's worked with hundreds of kids who've struggled in school, our KPS motto is really important because it says every child, every opportunity, every time. And what that means is we give our students hope, and a hope that they can succeed. We set high expectations for every child. We expect them to be in attendance. So the importance of attendance is really crucial, because we're not learning and if we're not in school. So really focusing our work around the well-being of our students, their academic success, and their attendance is really going to help each of our children, every child, every opportunity, every time succeed, no matter the community they live in, no matter their situation in school. We are going to individually make sure that that happens. And we can do that. That's a very positive message.
Thank you.
What would you do to help the board promote academic achievement in the district?
My passion is reading, and so continuing to focus on reading. This is not a KPS problem. This is a national problem, and so really looking at how our kids are learning to read. Bringing in the science of reading into the district in a very intentional way, which I know there's been lots of work towards that. But we, as a district, really need to look at, how we're teaching kids to read. And the foundational skills are so important in the work we do, because if you don't have the foundational skills, you can't get to the next level of, doing a lot of what we would consider balanced literacy. So, that being a focus to me is huge. The other thing is, innovation. Our district has always been about innovation and looking at ways of doing something different. And you know what? Sometimes it's successful and sometimes it's not. But doing those innovative things really can impact the district. So making sure that we continue to look at things, decide whether they're working or not working, and adjust accordingly.
Thank you. At this time, I wanted to give you the opportunity to provide your closing statement.
I've always been a very strong supporter of KPS, and there is no place that has such committed teachers, staff, administration, and board than here. And if I can have an impact, a positive impact, on that, I would love to work with you and continue to move the district forward, because I know that's your intent. That's what you're trying to do every day. And what I will say is, I really want to thank you for your work, because I know it's hard work, and what you do really makes a huge difference to the kids in our district. And just again, just making sure that we're really focusing on kids and what's best for them. If we can keep that in the forefront, that's going to help continue to move things forward.
Thank you.
We are scoring on every one of the questions that was answered, from the opening statement to the closing statement. Thank you so much. So, okay. So I'm scoring on 8 questions. Thank you. Thank you. No, no. Those little confection sugar hearts. Do you remember when you were little, you used to be really careful about what you ate and what you read them? And I was just doing it last night. And there's different kinds of them. There's rated X. There's adult. Oh, there's a whole slew of them. You want to be a little careful if you have grandchildren or children around with some of those. It went from 59 to 42. High of 42 tomorrow, I think. I gotta tell you, I would like you to keep those thoughts to yourself, please.
I just feel it. It doesn't. Oh, you're right. You're right. And you know how I feel about driving in the snow and everything, but something just this winter was too perfect. With the exception of that those couple of days.
Just the day that my pipes froze.
Snow's already in the forecast for next week.
Yeah.
Snow?
Yeah.
No.
We got snow next week?
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, I don't know how hard the ground is frozen.
That's what I'm
You
saying.
know, it's been such a tepid winter that all it will be is slushy, maybe.
I don't even think it's gonna be slush. I think it's gonna be that icy.
I really think, for me, the ugly grayness, you know, the dead leaves and that's what's killing the dirty.
Especially if you see under the dirty snow.
Oh, yeah, there's all the garbage on
Yes,
there.
that's what.
Like you're driving down Message and there's still these snarky mountains of melty stuff.
I saw a bat flying down the road.
You did not.
I did too, and that's not a good thing. So waking up when it's too warm out and they don't have any bugs in them.
Oh, we know you know.
I know that.
My question is,
She takes care of it. Oh, I got
did you run get it?
Animal on the road, give it to me. I'll take care of that thing and let it go.
in real life. Raccoon.
You just
Right back to her. You're not gonna find anything on the road.
But there was a point in time she had a whole little animal farm.
I did have an animal farm.
some
Squirrel or
not
What was it?
I had a couple possums and nine
ferrets.
one time.
Ferrets. She sent a possum to school with her child
I did.
with a note.
I sent a passel of possums and I tied it to my forever so it stayed warm and sent it to school.
Because she thought the kids would learn. You got to tell Takesha your your squirrel story, the squirrel you saved in Dr. Rice's garage, and what you did with it. Not out loud, but tell it to Takesha. Yeah. But how did you bring it home? Yeah, that's the killer. That's what sent Dr. Rice into.
Nope. Just know that she saved that squirrel.
She needed to keep it warm. She had nothing to carry it in, so she needed to keep it warm. Yep. Very warm. Good evening. I would like to call this meeting back to order. The next interview will be with candidate Jacqueline Slavey.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you. Can you briefly introduce yourself and explain why you are interested in serving on the Board of Education? Can you also elaborate on your involvement with KPS, including any volunteer work within the district?
Yes. So my name is Jacqueline Slaby. I am neighborhood activator for the city of Kalamazoo in our community planning and economic development department. So I'm responsible currently for all of our 22 neighborhoods in terms of organizing them into neighborhood associations, working with each of those neighborhoods to develop plans that help guide the growth and development of that area over the next 5 to 10 years, and then implementing those projects outlined in those plans. Prior to that work, I grew up in Battle Creek, Michigan, graduated from Battle Creek Central. I lived in Philly for 5 years, where I went to college and did work there in transportation. My master's is in sustainable transportation infrastructure planning. I went on to work in higher education in Italy through Temple University, where I also taught art history at the high school level in a Rome context. So, returning back from Italy, I moved back to Battle Creek, in which I served 6 years on the school board for Battle Creek Public Schools as their youngest trustee to be elected to the school board at the time. And then during that time worked extensively to get student representation there, passing our student rep policy, which your former peer Tandy Moore had reached out with a group of students through FIRE, the local organization, to better understand that work to see if it could be replicated in Kalamazoo a few years ago, and also working on policies that impact contracts, being able to incentivize and attract more local, smaller, and minority contractors to do work. We recently passed a $44.6 million bond to transform our middle schools, which I was the chair of for that committee. And so that was passed successfully about a year prior to my closing of my term. The reason why I left, even though I was asked to run again, was I took on this role with the city of Kalamazoo, and I believe strongly in living where you work. And so, due to that, I commuted for several months until my term ended in 2022, and then I moved over to Kalamazoo. I'm a proud Vine resident. And I think that the reason why I'm interested in serving on this board is when we think of schools as neighborhood assets, I truly believe Kalamazoo Public Schools is the missing piece, missing link to all the work that we do here in the neighborhoods. I just finished the neighborhood plan for the Stewart neighborhood, which is the 8th neighborhood plan that was adopted by the City Commission that was approved in August. 97 pages, 100 projects outlined. These plans, while written by me, are all voices captured by the residents, businesses, other community members within that neighborhood. There are 6 goals that they outlined to achieve over the next 5 to 10 years. One of those 6 goals was to support Woodward School. So we've worked very closely with facilitating conversations between the Stewart Historic Neighborhood Association and Principal Rocco at Woodward School to do a lot of creative programming with students there in partnership with CIS to either beautify the area around the school, make it safer for students, and also just provide an opportunity for residents of that neighborhood to connect with the students and families there. So just examples of projects we've done in just the last year. We had a trunk or treat event at at Woodward, and over 1,600 families came to that event. We ran out of candy in the first hour. But in addition to that, we worked with redesigning North Street, where we repaved it to actually improve the circulation for parent pickup. At that time, they were filling up Stewart Avenue, even parking in residents' driveways. And so when we remarked North Street, we actually created parking on the side of that street to to encourage parents to pick up there to reduce that issue during pickup time. So those are just different examples that range from traffic calming to programming with students to community building events that I've helped support during my time in this role with the city of Kalamazoo. And I think I can help be that bridge on the board with being able to support communications into all of our neighborhoods, which we have students, coming from each of those neighborhoods through our schools.
Thank you. Tell me, what do you believe the role of a school board member is?
So we, of course, provide oversight in terms of evaluation of the superintendent, and then, just approving budget, approving policies, setting policies. I also think through MASB, they were really instrumental in my understanding of our role as advocates as well. And so while on the board, us having a duty to advocate on behalf of the district to state legislature on legislation that may impact our students and families or our school districts. And so one of the ways that I supported that as part of our role at Battle Creek Public Schools was to create a legislative advocate position on there. So I served in that capacity where I would come to one of our regular board meetings with updates on legislation that's either in the House or the Senate at the time that may impact us, and let us know what the status of that is, how could it impact us, and if we felt like it negatively impacted or we wanted to support it, we together would decide, we would come to a consensus, decide on that, and then we would write a letter in support. Through that work, I then applied to serve on MASB's statewide government relations. So as I finished out my term, I served on there for 1 to 2 years. So being able to make sure that we understand all the external factors that impact the way our district runs and supports our children and families are important. So I think that is one piece that many school board members don't understand that as being part of their role, but really found that bringing that to Battle Creek Public Schools, most board members really found the value in understanding that legislation that would impact us.
Are you willing to prioritize and commit the time necessary to attend school board meetings, state trainings, and other school-related events? And do you have the flexibility to attend special meetings as required based on occurrences in the district?
Yes, I'm really excited. In the last 2 years in the role with the city of Kalamazoo, I personally hosted and attended over 300 community events. So we either hosted the event and engagement activity for residents within a neighborhood, or I attended a meeting or community conversation as a representative of the city. I'd love to do that as a representative of the school district, again, to bridge that gap and making sure that there's presence by the school district at all of these wonderful events.
Thank you. Can you tell us a time that you worked with a group of individuals with dissimilar views and collaborated to create a consensus?
Every day in the neighborhoods. We'll have projects, again, ranging from housing to traffic calming. I mean, believe me, when we bring up traffic circles, that can divide a whole entire neighborhood. So a lot of the work that I do as a liaison to neighborhood associations and directly to the residents themselves is to hold those really tough community conversations and being able to take both sides or with all the different perspectives that are there in the room and find either common ground, shared values, or at least a space where we can start to listen to one another and understand a path forward. So several times just throughout this position alone, I've had to work directly with Kalamazoo residents to be able to find some understanding and path forward on projects to figure out if we leave the project, continue on with the project, or make necessary adjustments.
Thank you.
Happy to share a specific example if you'd like. We're good. Okay. I know in my capacity as a school board member, I wouldn't necessarily do this as hands-on as I would, as my role with the city. But we had a wonderful opportunity to share at a Winchell Neighborhood Association how we've done traffic calming in the neighborhood, and so some people are trying to find ways to understand how that impacts them, and if there's a path forward to make those adjustments based on the impact that they perceive that the traffic calming has had on them. And then we have other folks who are really in support of the traffic calming that we've been piloting. So for almost a year now, is really a big division within the neighborhood. And we had a wonderful opportunity as one of their lectures. They have a ongoing series for residents to learn from different institutions, organizations locally. I was able to speak about, what is the city's master plan and strategic vision goals, and how does that funnel down to the neighborhood plan, which Winchell has a neighborhood plan as of 2020. And we did just a small exercise. There was over 60 people in the auditorium. And what we did was we took projects out of the neighborhood plan that essentially was approved by the neighborhood when that was passed in 2020. And each of the groups were a mix of people that had differing opinions on the projects, but we wanted them to come together to tell us what is the best outreach strategies and ways to engage their neighbors on these individual projects. And you should have seen the room. These people that were just a moment ago and for the whole, for the past year, really upset with one another because they felt like the other person wasn't listening. They were all listening to one another on trying to put together a strategy. And so we were able to have them all present. And it was really something. And then afterwards, regardless of the side or perspective someone held, they all came and thanked us for the opportunity to do that, to come together with their neighbors and find a pathway forward on a lot of the projects that they all are supportive of and behind as part of the larger vision for their neighborhood in the city of Kalamazoo.
What is a board member's role in promoting the growth and brand of the district?
We are the brand, essentially. In terms of us being able to ensure that people trust the district in the policies that we set and the decisions that are made by our superintendent, we are representatives of the community. This is an elected body outside of this position that will be appointed. And I think taking that into serious consideration, we have constituents that elect us to this board, and they make up the district. And so they want to know and trust that we help bridge that communication piece, that feedback loop between the district and the district's administration and the neighborhood and the community. So I think, in recent years, even recent decades, what we've wanted from schools are things that schools really weren't designed to take on in terms of supporting families and other needs that our families have. And so finding ways to find creative partnerships with other organizations, with the city, with other agencies, with other neighboring districts, how can we not necessarily take on the world to be able to solve all of the challenges that our families face, but lean on those relationships that we build out into the community to be able to direct our families in the right path. If they're struggling with housing, if they're struggling with transportation. We don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel as a district to create programs that already exist. And most of the time, those programs that exist already have the trust and relationships on the ground with those families, and maybe more appropriately can help solve those challenges. And so being able to connect the dots between what's going on in the community and what's going on in the district, I think can really help people show up in the classroom better, families understand what's going on with their children in the classroom. And so then when we take on larger issues, we have more of a support within our community to move forward with some difficult decisions when they come up. and rather than starting from scratch each time because we just don't have that trust and transparency there in place. So I think that it is very important and our duty as board members to ensure that whatever we hear in the community is presented, is shared directly with administration so they can either address it or just be aware of it. And then vice versa, anything that's happening on the district, it's our duty to bring that back to our community to make sure that they know all the good work that we're doing.
Good evening. The KPS motto is every child, every opportunity, every time. How would you positively promote the brand of the district?
Yeah, so I really love that motto because when we think about it through an equity lens, right? Every child may need something different. And based on, if we look at it at a neighborhood scale, how do we work with neighborhood associations, again, who have a direct line to residents every day, to be able to then provide resources and information about KPS and what's going on at that level? Often the work that we do, I choose locations, schools as a location to host events because we understand that as a central and central neighborhood asset everyone knows. And so being able to also connect that back to the neighborhood associations that again have constant meetings with parents and other guardians, right, or other community members that are involved in the schools. Being able to promote KPS, since it is the only school district within the city, being able to promote that within those spaces as well to bridge the gap. A lot of times people will bring up, we even had a recent city commission, we had 2 people speak about Kalamazoo Public Schools, wrong setting, but why couldn't we have a good relationship between the city and the district where if we got those comments, we would be sharing that with you all and vice versa. Some things that people may bring up as a challenge, to the school board, to the district, may actually be a challenge that the city can help address. And so again, finding those spaces where residents come and, provide feedback on a range of topics, having resources and information about KPS there, I think will be important when those topics are related to the district or education at large.
Thank you. What would you do to help the board promote academic achievement in the district?
So in my first 2 weeks, in my role with the city, what I wanted to do was find a way to get into the schools, to be able to again help youth and build and grow youth in their understanding of how cities work, etc. We did my AmeriCorps service member at the time put together a whole directory. They reached out to every single school in the district and as well as private and charter schools to understand the main contacts. So if we were to do an activity, we could call and reach out to the individual school. We did a bit of a pivot after that because the question was, well, what do we do with higher education? KVCC, Western, K College. And what I wanted to do was something different. I didn't want to do just like a workshop. I knew that college students, that wouldn't be so engaging compared to maybe for, a junior or a senior in high school. So that was the birth of Unizoocity. So it's a program and it's a college engagement series where we work directly with those 3 colleges to engage students through creative programming such as competitions, hands-on workshops, speaker series, etc. And through that, trying to figure out how that can be attractive to students going through K through 12 at KPS and trying to figure out where they want to go to college afterwards. We have a Kalamazoo Promise to help support funding, but how can we show them that really the city is a classroom in and of itself? And so at the city, Vice Mayor Hess has continued to promote this idea of education city, that really the city as a whole is a classroom for everyone, no matter what age or status is learning. And so finding a way to then capture the great work that KPS is doing with their students, once they graduate, why do they choose a local college? And so being able to make that case not only through the Kalamazoo Promise financially, but also through programs so that they can see that they can give back to their community through these wonderful opportunities set up. So I think in terms of supporting academic achievement, A, promoting the good work that we're already doing and the success that our students are having, but B, also strengthening that pipeline even further between not only graduation and then enrolling into a local college, but then that retention. And I think being able to help students understand themselves as a whole person, not just a student and they're, just tied to direct, success on a test, etc., or a GPA, but seeing their success tied to the improvement of their community, the improvement of their family situation around them. And I think through that is much stronger incentive for a lot of our students. And again, I think the only way we can do that is keeping them here in a local college and making that case for them through that type of programming and relationship.
Thank you.
5-minute warning.
Thank you. At this time, we would welcome you to give us your closing statement.
Thank you. So again, I think that I'm positioned currently with my role at the city and the work that I do in the community as a bridge maker between Kalamazoo Public Schools and all of the work that's being done by organizations in the neighborhoods that directly work with your parents and your guardians and your students. So I think that, me serving on this board in this capacity would allow us to examine our current feedback loops, our current way of community engagement, being able to strengthen that so families feel that they see the transparency, they're building that trust with KPS, and they have that continued ongoing communication, so that they're aware of all the amazing opportunities that are going on at the district, but also in the community, and to be able to reinforce both spaces as one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I no, it was average. It wasn't. I don't know if it was a Thursday because it was a.
Good evening. I would like to call this meeting back to order. The next candidate that we will be interviewing is Dr. Margaret Hale Smith. Good evening. Right at that desk.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Hill. Can you briefly introduce yourself and explain why you are interested in serving on the Board of Education? Can you also please elaborate on your involvement with KPS, including any volunteer work within the district?
Ms. Harrison, I remember telling the person I spoke with today, I wear hearing aids.
Yep. Do you need me to repeat it again?
I'm having trouble hearing you. There's so
Absolutely.
much space, it bounces off the wall. So if you speak a little,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Can you hear me a little better now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Dr. Hale Smith.
Hello.
Can you briefly introduce yourself and explain why you are interested in serving on the Board of Education? Can you also please elaborate on your involvement with KPS, including any volunteer work within the district?
Certainly. I am Margaret Hale Smith. I am a retired college and university administrator. I've been a dean and a vice president at 2- and 4-year institutions. I am interested in serving on the board because I'm the type of person who wants to be personally involved and serve the community. And my history shows that clearly. I'm especially interested in this board because I've been working within the classrooms in Kalamazoo for the last 4 years. And this seems the next logical step for me with my background, and I believe I could be an asset to the board. Elaborate on any involvement. I've been a guest student or a sub at 9 of your 17 elementary schools. I believe if you speak to the principals and teachers there, they will say that I'm welcomed. I usually do K through 3 students because I tend to want to make sure we're getting that 3rd grade reading level, which is so critical to student success. I also seem to be the kind of person that people are willing to talk to. And I think that's because they know they can trust me not to spread whatever we talk about around. I'm going to maintain our privacy and their privacy. And so I hear a lot of things and I'm told a lot of things. And I see a lot of things. Being inside the school system, in the elementary room all day, has certainly opened my eyes. I don't people really understand what teachers have to go through and the challenges they face and the money they spend out of their own pockets to make sure that classroom is functioning. I can walk into a classroom and I can tell we got a great teacher here. The resources and the feeling in there. I can walk into a school and get a feeling for that atmosphere there. Some schools call me. I've been in bed and the phone will ring and they'll say, can you come? Something's happened. Can you come and sub today? So that's a compliment to me that people trust me enough to want me in their classrooms with their students.
Thank you. Dr. Hale Smith, what do you believe is the role of a school board member?
I think when I put on my application, it still stands true. The role of a school board member is to work as a team, a group of individuals with unique skills and abilities to support our school district working with the superintendent. Our role is to set policy. Our role is to have goals and vision statements that we follow up on. Our goal is to hear what the superintendent believes and support his efforts, and also to evaluate those efforts. We're not evaluating him, we're evaluating the job, not the person, but the job, and to see these are the accomplishments he set out to achieve and whether or not he's doing that. And are we supporting those things and giving him the resources he needs to accomplish those?
Are you willing to prioritize and commit to the time necessary to attend school board meetings, state trainings, and other school related events? And do you have the flexibility to attend special meetings as required based on occurrences in the district?
I'm retired, so that means I do have the flexibility, but also I have the interest. I've been to the football games, although it's a little hard for me to get up on the bleachers these days, and also attended a musical at Hill Middle School because one of my neighbor's children was playing the violin. Um, that's something that I think is just a part of our role. We need to be visible in the community. We need to be approachable, and we can't be approachable if people don't know who we are. So we need to be out there. So I certainly would be looking forward to those opportunities to do that. And I wouldn't always send you a bill for that either. So
Hello.
yes.
Tell us. Oh, here, let me put this over here. Could you tell us about a time you worked with a group of individuals with dissimilar views and collaborated to create a consensus?
Consensus is a very strong, powerful word, isn't it? I'll give you one example. I was a dean at Lake Michigan College, which is in Benton Harbor, which, as some of you know, has a really unique history. And as an African American woman, there were a couple of people that weren't really ready for that leadership. The president gave me some directives, and we discussed it, and I set about trying to carry those out by meeting with individuals and talking to professors and getting them prepared. And based on those meetings and input, it was clear that we needed new leadership in terms of the deans. When I talked to the person who was holding a position, and we talked about the future and we were planning, he said he really wasn't, interested in that. He didn't believe in it, and he wasn't interested. So we interviewed some other people, professors, and came up with a new person. Well, boy, oh boy, some of the folks were not happy. So I held a meeting with everybody, and went to each individual person asking them to share their perspectives, understanding what we were heading for, and gave everybody a voice, everybody. And as people went around and started talking to and interacting with each other, it became clear that a change was needed. I didn't have to say a thing. And by the time that meeting was over, everybody had agreed with the new person in the leadership role. And I think one of the biggest compliments I have had in my career was after the meeting was over and I went back to my room, one of the profs that had not been extremely friendly, I haven't been able to really bridge that gap with them yet, came to me and said that was the best meeting they ever attended. That was high praise, and I have never forgotten that. So when you include everyone and give them a chance to have what they see, their perspective, and then we look at it in terms of what we're trying to achieve as a group And as a team, it makes a lot of difference.
What is a board member's role in promoting the growth and brand of the district?
Well, we know the motto, which is basically the brand, every child, every opportunity. Um, our the board is number one, I think, promoting it is by working with Dr. Slade. Okay? He is coming up with plans. He's already have an impact. I can tell you, I want to tell you, you've already had an impact. As a guest teacher, a sub, there's been some changes, and I know that's because of you. Um, Promoting the growth in the brand is again, as I said, number one, we have to be visible. But first of all, we have to be a team so that we're sharing the same message while we're out and about. And as people talk to us, that we can come back and discuss that with one another and add that to information that we can utilize as we move forward and plan. But first of all, Dr. Slade, as superintendent, his leadership and his guidance as he comes to us and tells us and shares with us information, we need to take that and work with him to make sure we're all on the same page.
Good evening. The KPS motto is every child, every opportunity, every time. How would you positively promote the brand of the district?
As I said, first of all, by making sure that we're communicating with Dr. Slade and hearing what he needs and making sure he has the resources. But personally, as board members, people come to you, they'll call you. They'll speak to you at the store, in Myers, wherever. And you need to make sure you hear them and listen to them, okay? And make sure you tell them, if you're going to do something, do it. Do it. I'm not that big of a fan of text messages because they can get misinterpreted. I don't really like email that much. Email's okay. I like to talk to people, when I can. And I like to talk to them face to face when it's possible. But integrity is key. And when you say you're going to do something, even if it's just a simple phone call to say, I checked into that, and at this time I don't have an answer for you, but I promise you I'm not going to forget this, and I'll keep in touch and do that. So I think that's part of promoting that brand.
Thank you.
Thank you. What would you do to help the board promote academic achievement in the district?
I think it's really critical that we understand the interdependence of our teachers, our parents, and our students. That is something that we really always want to keep in the forefront of who we're serving. Our superintendent, as our leader for academic achievement, tells us this is what he sees. This is what he needs. This might need to be changed, or this might need to be reinforced. As a board member, we need to make sure that we're communicating with him, communicating with the teachers in terms of if they call us, hearing what they say, and not getting involved with the day-to-day. That's his job. That's not our job. But our job is to be responsive to the needs that are expressed, not just through him, but through other constituents, even the community. We need to be open to hear what they have to say as well.
Thank you.
Dr. Hale Smith, I wanted to allow you the opportunity to give us your closing statement.
I'll make it brief. I've been privileged to be on several boards at the local, county, and state level. And the ones who were really successful and that I was just really thrilled to be involved with because we were able to accomplish our goals and mission were the ones where we really saw ourselves as a team, where there were no surprises. Everyone knew what was going on because there was open communication, there was mutual respect. Those boards helped me understand how important it is for accountability and integrity. Those are watchwords for me, and I'm always eager to be involved with groups who have those same values. When it comes to our students, the reason I'm in the classroom is because when I read that we had such a significant number of students who could not read at the third grade level nationwide, I'm not the kind of person to read something that says, oh, that's terrible, awful. My first inclination is, what can I do? What can I do personally? And that's how I got involved in Vicksburg, way in the country, where I thought I was lost, at a school working with students in a special program to read, to help them read. The principal was so impressed with the accomplishments I made with my students. She asked me, would I come and work for her as a parapro for reading? And I said yes, because I loved it so much. Those are unsung heroes, folks. I want to tell you, the parapros and the guest teachers, make sure you give them their kudos because they do a lot of work. So, as I said, I make it brief. I'm always eager to serve, to serve. And I believe with curriculum development, budget experience, teaching, I have a master's in counseling. And I think that's why I'm a good listener, because I don't listen to just answer. I listen to hear what people have to say. I think I would bring something to you, to your board. So I thank you for the opportunity just to speak with you and to share my background with you, and appreciate what Dr. Slade is doing. Dr. Slade, I walked into one school and they gave me a little box that had some candy in it. I said, thank you for being here today. That was really different, and I really appreciated that. So I think somebody's been talking to them about appreciating some of the guest teachers. So I understand if I were picked to be on the board, I would not be able to be a guest teacher in this district anymore. So I do understand that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, how much?
aware that, so we'll see. You know, we shall see.
Good evening. I would like to call this meeting back to order, and we will have the last candidate that will be interviewing with us, Pastor Ronnie Coleman. My error. Pastor Ronnie Coleman has not arrived yet. We will give him a few minutes before we go into deliberation.
Thank you. Let me apologize. This day has been quite a hectic one with a meeting that okay, I'm ready. Yes.
Good evening, Pastor Coleman. Welcome.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Absolutely. Can you briefly introduce yourself and explain why you are interested in serving on the Board of Education? Can
Yes,
you
ma'am. Thank you.
also elaborate on your involvement with KPS, including any volunteer work within the district?
Certainly. Thank you for having me. And again, I apologize for my lateness. I know I was trying to get here, but they moved the time around. I sought the position after some time of really thinking about how I wanted to re-engage after retirement to get back involved in education. I have always, even with my corporate career of 40 plus years, have kept an eye on, been involved in things involved in education, especially through the company. I was an executive manager with Consumers Energy over the electric operations, and then ended my career with the public relations side of the business. And every one of those stops, I was engaged and involved in the communities that we touched in education. It allowed me a great opportunity to see around the state with Consumers Energy the wonderful things that our company was involved in each of those school districts, and supplying the volunteer role and the human resource along with dollars and cents from our foundation. So it was a great opportunity for me to really be a part of a bigger picture in the education field. I came to this area in 2000. My daughter graduated from Kalamazoo Central, and it has been a wonderful opportunity for me to see. And as we run the tape forward, one of the roles that I was blessed to play was the chairman of the Kalamazoo Regional Chamber of Commerce. I sat at the table with the 9 families who shared with the Chamber of Commerce. We have an economic thrust for our community. We just don't have a name for it yet. The next time I heard about it, it was called the Kalamazoo Promise. I said to Dr. Janice Brown, we were on a couple of committees together at the Chamber. I said, you have been blessed and with a tremendous gift, but you've also been cursed. And she looked at me with a puzzle in my face. I said, because now you've got to deliver on the academic side with all of the people coming into the community. And we talked about it a lot because of my role serving for 16 years on the Board of Education of Bridgeport Spalding. I was the first African-American elected to the township in the township's history to public office. And my wife, when she told me she was pregnant with our first child, I joined the PTA. One of 10 children. My mother was a PTA mom, and education was number one for us. Her father was a doctor in the South, which was unheard of. All of her and her sisters are graduates of college. All 10 of us came out of college and went to college. The 24 grandchildren, multiple degrees. So education has been a focus for our family, which has really made me take a look at it. And I was up working on something for the church, and I saw the posting about the vacancy. And I said, this is a good time to kind of jump back in, if possible, to participate. So I come to you with a fully accredited boardmanship. I taught classes for the MSB on boardmanship, and had a lot of fun. A lot of challenges, but we had a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to, if given the opportunity, to serving again with what I bring to the table and from my experiences serving on a school board.
Thank you. What do you believe is the role of a school board member?
Ooh, I'm glad you asked that. The primary role of the school board, one, is you hire the superintendent, and you work primarily with the superintendent on the delivery process for education through the K-12 process and the other ancillary pieces that support the school district. Having worked with our school board, we went through 4 full, complete superintendent searches that we guided the board through. And it had its challenges. And so, and if you will, as a board chair, I had to rein in our board members who were actually in the school buildings trying to tell the teachers what to do, crossing that line. And so a primary role for the board, you're the eyes and ears for the parents in the district. You're the best promotional piece that the district can have because you're on the inside and looking at all of the activities that goes on in a school district, but you can also explain to parents the why. And most of our parents always wonder, well, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And the board is that number one cheerleader, that, in my perspective, of the success, one of the pieces of the success of the school district.
Thank you.
Are you willing to prioritize and commit the time necessary to attend school board meetings, state trainings, and other school-related events? And do you have the flexibility to attend special meetings as required based on occurrences in the district?
Yes, yes, and yes. Being retired, and even though I'm pastoring, I have the flexibility of scheduling. And I know how important, if I were to say yes to the role, I've always made a tremendous commitment, whatever board I've served on, to be there when needed. And sometimes just when board members need to get together. I know you don't do a quorum, but when board members need to get together to talk about issues. But yes, I will.
Sir, can you tell us a time you worked with a group of individuals with dissimilar views and collaborated to create a consensus?
Let's see, which board shall I pick? Yes, serving on the school board for 16 years. And it was interesting. Bridgeport Spalding is adjacent to Saginaw, a large urban school district. As the face of the district changed, so did the politics of the district. And we had a fight at a Taco Bell by two schools outside of our district. Happened to be black and white students. And the front page said, Bridgeport Spalding has a racial problem. They were not our students. But for the next year, we moved our board meetings to the middle school gym. We had 500 and 600 people showing up at the meetings, and they wanted to know what was going on and why were we having these problems. We all took a little bit different approach, but I, as a board chair, wanted to guide the board through a civil dialogue to help us understand the changing dynamics of the school board, of the school system. And I was at the time the only African American on the board. So I spent a lot of time with very dissimilar viewpoints of kind of what was going on. The other board that I served on was the Michigan PTA board. As the president of the board, I facilitated a 68-member board. Of that 68, there were only 5 men. So I had a challenge all the time, and I had to remind the ladies in the group, there's a guy sitting at the table, because they would go off in their different tangents talking about the organization and things that were happening. So to shepherd the group through the issues of the day with education and the delivery process of education, and we were parent advocates. And we found the number one issue in that time in the state was special ed. They took over all of the other organizations. They became the number one group that were getting things to happen within the school systems. And so that was a real change for how we, as an advocacy group, were promoting to legislators how that change looked.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, I'll hold the question until she comes back.
And again, thank you so much for. My wife said, "Are you going to make it?" I said, "I'm going to try." I said, "That's my goal." So she parked the car. I pulled up in front, jumped out, and came around. Our friends from the media are here.
So, what is a board member's role in promoting the growth and brand of the district?
I think it's important for every board member to spend as much time as you can getting to know each of the schools in the district. And I've been pouring through all these numbers because not only do the parents need to know that you're willing to participate or be where our children are in the school district and the school buildings, but staff and administration need to see that the board is seeing what's going on in the buildings and playing an active role. And I found out over the experience of time that when you go for yourself, when someone tells you something from the community and you know it's not true, you don't have to call the district back to answer the question. You can support what's going on and then validate that when they come to the district, or if they call the superintendent, or if they call the principal, then they will get the same answer. And a lot of people sometimes, I won't stereotype everybody, but they have the gotchas. Everybody's trying to do the gotcha moment. And as an elected official, they're looking for you to have all the answers. Even if you have to make them up sometimes, people want you to have an answer. I chose to not make up answers.
Good evening. The KPS motto is every child, every opportunity, every time. How would you positively promote the brand of the district?
You know, I read that statement and I said to every child in our district needs our support to realize the opportunity that they have in the district and within the Kalamazoo. With the Kalamazoo promise in hand, every time I have a chance, I would share our successes, but never skirt the challenges of the district. And so you do a balance of sharing the good news, and you've got a great story to tell. I've been looking at these stats as a district, got a great story to tell, but there are also some challenges. And so promoting that every child, every opportunity, every time, again, how I would promote the brand, not only by speaking the truth, but then knowing some of the real issues going on in the district that people would want to know.
Thank you.
Thank you. What would you do to help the board promote academic achievement in the district?
You know, I'm a big guy on data. I had to deal with a lot of data and pouring through the district's reports on all kinds of things that are out there in the district. One of the things that I would do was to kind of memorize some of the measuring sticks that people are most familiar with. Those, I call them the touch points that become hot buttons if they're not addressed. And so when you know the demographics of the community, you know, the graduation rates, especially as I read in this one report, the graduation rates for African American males continue to go downward. People want to know why and what can you do as a board member to help turn that around. I remember my days on the district, I shared with a lot of parents the curriculum of the district. And I think you called yours achievement. They don't call it curriculum committee anymore. It's called something else here. But a lot of parents don't understand the curriculum of the district and where their child might fall into place there. So I spent time as a board member helping parents I'd grab the staff member that was in charge of the curriculum and said, let's explain to this parent where their child is, regardless of whether it's elementary, whether it was middle school or the high school. Hopefully, with the third graders moving in and the work that's going on, they'll have a better chance to succeed because the reading skills, all of those metrics that are out there for the district and how they're being used to promote the academic achievement. We know we're going to have some that are going to fall through the cracks. And I'm a realist. You're not going to save every child, but you want to save every child and help the child be successful. Because if they're going to succeed outside of the school system moving forward in life, they're going to need the skills that we're providing. You guys are ranked 89th out of 855 school districts. That's pretty good.
Thank you. At this time, Pastor Coleman, we would love for you to give us your closing statement.
You know, this is a great time to engage in the delivery of public education. The Kalamazoo public school system has a great story to tell. It tells the community that we care. And I know that as I've watched your board meetings, and I'm the president of the PMM board, Public Media Network, that films your boards meetings. And you have a visionary leader. I've done some homework on the superintendent. Love the things that I'm hearing from, and parents in a church service told me about the superintendent and the work and the vision of work. I don't know what meeting that they were at, but it was really good, and they are carrying that message. Let me tip my hat to all of you for the work that you're doing. And I am really excited about the opportunity, if you will, to re-engage in the delivery process of education. I know that I've worn a lot of hats, the Michigan PTA president, served on the school board. One of the things that I was challenged with was going to the Columbine High School. It was a PTA school. And working with the National Secretary of Education and the President Clinton at the time, they invited me to serve on a committee with them, and I did a national telecast on school violence. And that was back in the 80s. And when I look at where it is today, I would hope to say that it's gotten better, but we all know the real story that it's gotten worse. However, I believe that I've got, if you will, some juice left in the tank to be able to participate, add some insight on my experiences. I've been to around the country in colleges talking about the stem cells with Consumers Energy. I've also done a lot with the parent advocacy role. And it's an opportunity that I've been kind of wanted to find a way to still offer what I've been blessed to do as a board member, as a parent advocate for children in education. I still believe our children can succeed. And I believe that you believe that, and that's why you're at the table. That's a little bit about Ron Coleman.
Thank you, sir. So at this time, the board is going to deliberate, and we will come back with our candidate.
Do you want me to step out?
The Kalamazoo Public Schools Board of Education unanimously selected Carol McGlynn to fill its trustee vacancy in a special board meeting on February 9th, 2024, after interviewing 4 candidates. So I need a motion to accept it.
I move to accept the candidate Carol McGlynn as our new board member to fill the seat that's vacant.
I need a second.
Second.
It'll be a roll call vote. Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Shola Barber,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson, Trustee McGlynn, or Trustee Hill,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So with that said, we have unanimously, based on this information, selected Carol McGlynn to be the newest trustee for the Board of Education. I need a motion to close this meeting.
So moved.
We can count on you. I need a second.
Second.
I have a motion from Trustee Johnson, seconded by Trustee Shola Barber to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, we will see you all in here on the 22nd of February. This meeting is adjourned. Wait, is there more?